A guy with zero art background picks up a set of tools for the very first time in order to create a tiny proposal box for his fiancée. 20 years later, that same guy is now the lead sculptor for one of the most iconic and prestige studios in the whole of Ireland. When Jamie McCarthy Fisher, the managing director of Wild Goose Studios, told me that story about his lead sculptor, Adam, it really hit me because that's also my story. I've been able to do incredible photography campaigns with major retailers combined with Nike and NWSL teams. I make my living here on YouTube despite having never taken a photography class, never taken an editing class, have no degree or professional qualifications in filmmaking. Adam didn't need any diploma to become a master sculptor, and I didn't need any qualifications in order to carve out my own career in creativity. And that's what I want to talk about today. The lie of creative qualifications and the fact that what you make is always going to be more important than the permission that you're given from a piece of paper or any other kind of qualification. The first part of this is kind of the trap that we do all fall into when we first start creating. You look at the people you admire, you look at people who create, who are at the level that you want to get to, and you immediately assume that they have some form of qualification, that bit of paper, in order to give them legitimacy. And this immediately builds in imposter syndrome to you if you don't have that. You're convinced that before you can call yourself a photographer, an artist, an illustrator, a carver, anything at all creative, that you have to have that diploma, otherwise you're just pretending. It's like a little bit of permission to go out and be creative. You feel like a tourist, you really hesitate to put your work out there, you undercharge for the work that you're doing, and all these things limit your career progression quite significantly in some cases, all because you have this idea that you need the qualification first. I know this feeling personally, intimately, because when I put my first video out in 2019, I did so from a cramped, small hostel room, sat on a bunk bed with a bad sheet behind me as a background. I had no background in video editing. I'd never edited a video before in my life. I did it with a GoPro stacked up on some books on a radiator with no dedicated microphone. And the video is terrible. However, there's two important things to note here. The first one being that it needed my girlfriend at the time, my now wife, to encourage me to put that video out there, to make it in the first place, because I had this imposter syndrome. I wanted to do something, I wanted to be creative, but I felt like I couldn't be because look at all these other people and what they're doing and all of these qualifications that they absolutely must have. And the other thing is that that video is still on YouTube today, despite how bad it is, because in the almost 8 years since I've been doing this, I now have plenty of people who come to me, particularly in my niche, and ask, how do I start? What do I do? And I can point them to that video to say, just do it. It doesn't actually matter. Whatever you put out today with a mobile phone this year is going to be better than what I put out then. The tools available, the references you have, it's going to be better than what I did. And I got to this point by simply just doing it, overcoming that imposter syndrome and ignoring all the signals that said, you shouldn't do this, you're not qualified. So going back to my conversation with Jamie at Wild Goose Studio, which is a heritage bronze casting studio that's been running since the 70s, going back to talking to them and how they found Adam, and the fact that Adam just wanted to solve a problem. He wanted to give this claddagh ring to his now wife, and he was presented with an issue. And he solved that issue with his hands, and in doing so, uncovered talent, uncovered skill that was recognized by those around him who helped him develop it to the point that he is now one of the best at what he does. The studio's founding artist, Kathleen, even saw that talent and passed down her tools to him in order to continue. So I hope the parallel between these two stories actually shows that it isn't qualification that is getting people to where they are. It's support and encouragement and belief. And yes, hopefully a little bit of talent. For me personally, it's just constant repetition. You do something enough, you'll eventually get good at it. Adam had natural skill. Now, this seems like a good point to say that this is not an attack on standard education or formal education. Art schools, university programs, anything like that, they hold immeasurable and immense value. When I sat down with Kit French to talk to him, Kit is a classically trained artist from an art academy in Florence, and Kit even uses that to factor into his pricing. When we spoke about how he prices his art or how he believes art should be priced, he factors in education to that, and I absolutely don't see a problem. And Kit wouldn't be where he is today without that experience, without that qualification that backs him up, without all of the information that he got from his formal education. You get an environment to practice in, you get a community of peers, you get constant feedback, and you do get an underpinning for why things may work in the way that they do. I do wish, despite getting to the point that I'm at, that when I went to university, I had undertaken something such as photography, filmmaking, editing, something that really would have driven me further and faster within the career that I have eventually somewhat fallen into, that I had made that conscious decision, this is what I want to do, and this tool, this education, is going to help me do it. My argument isn't that receiving an education is bad. My argument is that not having one isn't an excuse or a reason not to start. It isn't an excuse or a reason to not pick up the camera, to not go and put paint strokes onto a canvas, to go and learn how to illustrate by just doing. There's no excuse not to do that just because you don't have an education. You shouldn't feel inferior because you don't have an education. You can still go out and create. And then later on down the line, if this is something that really works for you, you found a calling, you can go and get some of that education, some of that underpinning. Again, I spoke to another artist recently, Emma Jacobs, who is a full-time professional artist in oil painting. She teaches oil painting, but with no qualification. However, she feels that now, at this stage in her career, that she should go back and get her degree and get a formal education, which she's doing now at a later stage in her life and career. And I fully support that as a fantastic way to move. But that's 3 different methods. You've got Adam, you've got Kit, and you've got Emma, who've all approached education in completely different ways and excelled in their individual areas as professionals. So if you're sitting there right now, feeling like an imposter, holding back from putting forward a project or launching something into the world, just think of Adam and a piece of clay, or me in a terrible video in a GoPro in a hostel room. And remember that you're in control. Not any education or any kind of piece of paper can stop you doing what it is that you want to do. And only you are limiting your own potential. Don't wait for validation. Sit down, create art, and let the results speak for themselves. Because nobody else really cares. Just create.